Hello, my name is Alex Balla, and I wrote my research paper on books and bullying. Now, this was concerned with the role that children's literature plays in the classroom, specifically those works concerned with bullying. This was aimed at elementary school teachers, and this defines bullying in a detailed yet all-encompassing way. So teachers are able to understand what bullying is, convey that to the students, and how to cope with bullying, and how you can use the children's literature to do this. Now, we see this bullying prevention as a sort of protective knowledge, and so it's important to define bullying at the get-go. And while different teachers have different definitions, there's a few key points that I think all teachers can agree on. Now, victims face physical, emotional, or verbal threats to their well-being, as well or through force, manipulation, and intimidation. Now, this just boils down to someone intentionally going out of their way to hurt someone, to be mean to them. Now, this can be an intense subject, but 4-year-olds should be exposed to it. Now, this is on a lower level. This is at a very basic level, but if you catch it at the very beginning when they start school, when they start preschool, it will help them so they understand what it is before it actually happens, before it is a problem, and this prepares them. So defining bullying is not as tricky as gathering the materials to teach students and actually teaching them. So valuable anti-bullying books are not super hard to come by, but you have to know what you're looking for. And that's what I'm here to explain. So valuable anti-bullying children's books provide a release for negative emotions. They offer realistic solutions. They encourage victims to ask for help. They increase respect for others. They expose children to empathy, and they augment an awareness for human behavior. So this is a lot of information, but valuable anti-bullying children's books do all these things, and they help students with all these things. So victims of bullying will relate to these characters because they can think, oh, this main character dealt with this problem, they're like me, I'm not the only one, and this helps them. It helps them feel a little less lonely. A child will see the solutions played out in these works of literature. So they'll see what works, what doesn't work, what's a smart choice, and what's not a smart choice. Third, students may be afraid to ask. They may not know they should ask for help. But if they see these characters ask for help from a parent, a teacher, a trusted adult, or even a friend, they're more likely to do that in their own lives if they encounter bullying. So fourth, these children will be introduced to empathy and see the bully side of the story, and this is harder, but this is very important because a lot of times children are victims of bullying themselves, and so that's why they become bullies. And so if students understand this, they're more likely to empathize with their bully, and they will not feel as hurt because they have an answer to the why is this happening to me. Also, students may not know that they're just bad people in this world. And if you explain how bad things happen, but you use children's literature, it's a more gentle way to ease them into this, to explain this, and it's much better than if they just experienced it themselves. So, anti-bullying education can and should be taught throughout the year, and so teachers should explain all of these things and use these books as much as they possibly can. But they should definitely talk about it the first day, which is typically in August, and maybe October they're forgetting it, but this is perfect. This is a perfect time to refresh students, to use different measures to start a new book that explains bullying. And October is prime because it is Bullying Prevention Month. So if you explain this to the students, it's a very natural and easy segue because it doesn't seem forced. It's like, okay, this applies to everyone. It's National Bullying Month. We're not focusing on one issue that happened in the classroom, and so no one feels singled out, and everyone's able to participate. And you can explain the different ways that bullying is expressed and the different ways to deal with it. And also, you can explain how confidence in the victim and empathizing with the offender also come into play. So one book, Berenstein Bears and the Bully, demonstrates exactly how to deal with a bully, and there's good ways and bad ways, and Sister Bear shows us both of these things. And at first she wants to punch her bully, Tuffy, in the face, and then she kind of reflects and she realizes that this is a bad idea. And so students are able to see this. They think, okay, Sister Bear already dealt with this problem. She already made her decision. was a smart decision, I'll do that instead. I will decide not to hurt my bully. I will decide just to talk to them calmly. And so this is really good for students to see scenarios played out that end well. Also, Llama Llama and the Bully Goat. This is a personal favorite of mine. It should be read aloud to the class, and they can have little miniature stop signs. And every time they see an example of bullying, they can hold up their stop sign. And so students see this as a game, especially the little ones, but they're also learning, and they're looking for signs of bullying, and it's done in a different way. It's not just like, okay, here's a list, now you remember. And so they're more likely to remember it if they're actually doing something with the material instead of just being force-fed it. So you can also ask questions like, how did Llama Llama handle this problem? Was this a smart choice? Can you use it in your life if you experience this? So this is very important. And so once they understand some good ways to deal with bullying, they should look at competence. So a child's self-esteem may decrease even after they seek an adult's help because the bully's actions still sting, and this is a natural thing. However, we can use the book Stand Tall, Molly Lou Melon to approach this because it's the perfect example of self-confidence. And she uses the exact things that her bullies make fun of and turns the negative into a positive. So they say, oh, you're short? Oh, well, I can run through the football players and I can make a touchdown. Oh, you have a big nose? Oh, look, I can balance so many pennies on my nose. And so she turns everything from negative to positive, and we can teach students this because they see it modeled. And likewise, she has a very strong support system with her grandmother. Her grandmother teaches her how to turn that negative into a positive, which is very important for students to learn. And they can see, okay, not only are we going from negative to positive, we also have that support system. So in addition to seeking help, standing tall like Molly, and finding supportive friends or family, children must learn one more thing. They have to learn how to properly deal with the bully in terms of empathy. So this is hard, but there are several pieces of literature that will help us. So the Berenstain Bears and the Bully, Sister Bear discovers that Tuffy, her bully, was bullied by her own parents. And so Sister Bear is more empathetic, and she's like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, I didn't understand. And so now that you have that mutual understanding, you're less likely to get angry, and the bully is more likely to stop bullying because they feel understood as well. One book called Enemy Pie, a little boy comes to the same destination but in an entirely different way. He understands empathy. He understands that bullies need kindness. They need to be shown love too. And his father is actually a model for him. So this is a cue for teachers. Like, we should be models, and we should show students the right way. We should show them instead of just telling them. The father in this story tells the son to bake a pie and give it to his bully instead of beating him up or getting into a fight or screaming at him. And the little boy thinks it's crazy, but it ends up working out really well. And students can see, okay, this worked well for the boy in Enemy Pie, it should work well for me too. So they can see all these scenarios played out, and then they can choose the smart decisions instead of having to do trial and error themselves. So the children's book Bully also provides simple example of bullies who act out of anger and loneliness. And this bull calls people names. It's not very nice, but we can use this to teach students how words are so hurtful and positive ways to respond to bullies. So if someone says something rude, you just respond with a positive answer and you move on. So students must know many ways to combat bullies, but they must also understand reflection. So students can look at all the different scenarios and characters in the books I've mentioned, and then they can think, oh, have I been a bully myself? Did I respond out of anger? Did I bully the person who hurt me? And if students go through this, they're more likely to use more, smarter decisions in future circumstances. So reflection is very important, especially after reading all of these books. So after reading all these books, you can also do group presentations. So you can give one book to each of the groups, and then they can focus on it, write down everything they've learned, and then present that to the class. So this saves time, and the students feel a sense of ownership with their book that they're presenting. And so everyone in the classroom gets more out of it than if it's just read in front of the class and then nothing else is done with it. So in conclusion, anti-bullying education will not completely eliminate the abuse, but it's a start in the right direction. So if we open up the conversation and we define bullying, we show students the right ways to deal with it, and the wrong ways to deal with it, how to empathize with the bully, how to have self-reflection. They have tools in their toolbox to work with if they encounter bullying, if they see someone else encounter bullying. And so it just puts them on a positive trajectory in the end. And so if they are victims, they're in a better place to deal with it than if they had not had this anti-bullying education. So through all these elements, children's literature boosts the anti-bullying education students receive in the classroom. Thank you.